Today, I want to talk about something that I think is costing the industry millions of dollars a year, and it's not bad marketing. It's not your fleet makeup. And it's not even bad service. It's pretty simple. It's that operators won't pick up the phone. And when I say they won't pick up the phone, I don't mean they don't answer their phone. I mean they don't proactively call leads back many times. They don't proactively just call leads in the first place. They don't have real conversations with real people that are the ones requesting the quotes. They get a lead, they shoot over a price, maybe it's automated, maybe not, and they move on. And so, look, I get it. If it's a simple airport transfer for someone who's from out of town on vacation, okay, fine. Maybe you don't need to pick up the phone and call that person. But here's what I've learned after doing this for 8 years plus, and now I've worked with probably over 500 limo and bus operators. You just have no idea who might be on the other end of that quote request. That $370 one-way sprinter job, it could be the senior vice president from a multinational corporation with 11,000 employees who needs 5 figures worth of transportation in the next 2 weeks. That's crazy, right? Well, I know this because it actually happened to me when I was doing sales for a client. And it happened to one of my clients, and I'm going to tell you guys that story today. But first, I want to set the stage because I think there's a problem in this industry that nobody's really talking about, honestly. And I've talked about it, but it's the automation trap. Now, look, I'm a tech guy, right? I literally built a booking system for this industry, or semi-booking system. So I'm not anti-automation. I was actually super bullish on automation 5 years ago. Automated quotes, online bookings, instant pricing. There's a place for all of that, especially for simple stuff, airport transfers, point-to-point rides where it's pretty cut and dry. But here's where it breaks down. When someone's requesting a quote for a sprinter or bus or a multi-vehicle event, and all they get back is an automated price, or they just see it on a screen, you've just turned yourself into a commodity. You're just a number on the screen next to several other numbers. And whoever's cheapest wins. But what if you called? What if you spent a few minutes asking them, have you ever used chauffeur transportation before? Oh, you use it all the time? Is there a reason you don't already have a vendor you are using for these services? So I've got a client. His name's Jacob. He runs AZ Luxury Coach out of Phoenix. And he told me something that kind of blew my mind. He said 80% of his bookings would not have happened if he didn't call them. That's 8 out of 10. Think about that. If you're spending $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month on marketing and you're just auto quoting everything, 80% of those leads might be dead on arrival. Not because the leads are bad, but because nobody called and actually found out what their needs were. Now, I want to tell you about something that happened to me personally in February. And this one thing changed how I think about every single lead that comes through. So we had just launched a new online booking system for one of my clients out of Houston. First ever booking comes in on a Sunday morning. Guy named Robert had filled out all of his job details on a Friday afternoon, looking for a quote on a one-way sprinter, which he got immediately on the second step of the booking funnel. That was part of the software. And about 2 hours later, he sent a text message asking about a round trip promotion / discount after he got his quote and the quote was texted to him. So he sent this text on a Friday. No one responded to that text. On Saturday, he actually tried to book online through the link he was sent and his follow-up links, and he gets a payment error, can't complete it. Sunday morning, he tries again, and finally the booking goes through as we had sorted the issues on the technical side. Now at this point, most operators, most marketing agencies would say, great, we got a booking, $370, next. But I actually remember this very well. I was sitting there having my Sunday morning coffee, and I saw the very first booking of this software that we had developed come through. And so immediately I went to the CRM of our client in Houston that, had been kind of our test client. And I saw the text message that this guy sent 2 hours after he had gotten his quote, and saw that there was no response. And then he booked on Sunday, and I was blown away because, why would he have booked after all of that? And so I picked up the phone, I called him. He was a senior vice president of a multinational corporation with 11,000 employees globally. One of their biggest offices is in Houston, and he had senior executives visiting, actually from Australia, for about 2 weeks. And he didn't just need that one-way transfer. He needed transportation to Rockets games, NASA visits, dinners, and other events. And here's the kicker. He'd gotten at least 2 other quotes from limo companies on that Friday in Houston. And they all quoted him, 4 to 5 hour minimums. All he wanted was a point-to-point. They wouldn't do it. So he went with my client despite the poor communication and tech issues. So I'm just like, my mind is blown when this is happening. So then he says to me, I'll never forget this, I can put you in touch with our executive assistant. She's the one who books everything, which she usually books things like this. I don't know why he was. She has 50 to 100 people coming to Houston in the next 2 months. And if you work with her and obviously things go well, I promise you'll get more business out of it. So a $370 one-way Sprinter ride. That's what this looked like on paper. Behind it, a corporate whale, an executive assistant who controls recurring 5 to 6-figure transportation spend for a global corporation. And we got there because I made one phone call. Now, the painful part of this story, so I ended up setting up a meeting, a Google Meet with the executive assistant. Her name was Melissa, and my Houston client. So there was 3 of us. And on that meeting, Melissa laid out everything, what she needs, how she vets vendors, communication standards, invoicing. And she told my client on the call she's going to need buses for the Houston Rodeo in March. 2 weeks later, I follow up with my client, and I said, "So, how'd it go with Melissa? Like, how big are these rodeo jobs? What kind of money are we talking here?" And he said, she never responded to my email." And so, and that's the whole problem right there. You can find the whale, you can get the introduction, but if you don't follow through, if you don't treat that lead like the gold it is, someone else will, or worse, nobody will. And the EA goes back to Uber and Lyft because she can't find a reliable vendor. So that's story number 1. And in a few minutes, Jacob from AZ Luxury Coach is going to join me. And, I've got my one story. Jacob's got so many stories that are even better than mine because he lives and breathes this stuff every single day. Few different, things we might cover. He got a call from a soccer coach while he was on a ski trip. He was on vacation, noisy background, came up with a creative solution in order to help this coach out. And there's actually just plenty of other different ones we'll go over. I was going to prompt them, but I think now might just be a good time to get Jacob on the line here. So beautiful, awesome. Can you hear me okay, Jacob?
I got you, Mark. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. Man, thanks for joining. I know we've done this before on a recorded video, which, by the way, if you guys, watching this haven't seen that video, we did that about a year ago or so. And I've had one client in particular in San Diego, named Aladdin from Jet Limo, tell me that he watched that video, and I've seen it, just his business is like blown up, and it was you that inspired him. And so
anything we can do to help, that's what I like, Mark. It's not just the industry itself, it's being able to put my stories out there and get other people to do the same thing.
Yeah. So let me set the stage. So Jacob, I've known Jacob for a while now, and he started with us. It was in March of 2025. So it's been like 15 months or so now. And pretty much right away, I noticed Jacob was getting really good results. I was like, wow, what's going on here? So I was like, obviously I gave him a call, and I found out that he was just calling all of the leads, which was like, at the time I thought, oh, that's probably a good idea. But I was so deep into, automate everything. And how many automations are you running right now, Jacob? How many automated text messages?
I have zero automation. I take that back. They have the one at the end. Once we're all said and done, actually, they get hey, give me a review.
That's probably the only automation.
One you need. Other than
obviously, right?
There's no. You know what, Mark? I think we do have the initial. Right. But that's once they send the quote, the initial saying, "Hey, we got your request. We'll be contacting you shortly if we have any questions." And that's it.
Yeah.
Other than that,
so Jacob, just
zero
for
automation.
people who don't know you, give a little background. Like, how long have you been in the industry? Like, as far as maybe not even owning your own business, but in the industry. And then when did you start your own business? And then, when did you really start? Because I know, like most people, they go through like an affiliate phase, and then they start getting their own clients. So and fleet makeup, stuff like that.
Yeah, so I started in the industry in 2015, so 11 years now. Worked for a company local here, learned kind of the ins and outs. I'm by nature a very inquisitive person, so I started thinking to myself, why do we do this? How could it be better? And obviously, being new, I wasn't one to question or ask. I would just come up with these things in my head. Transitioned over to another company locally in 2017. Kind of the same thing. I had more responsibilities there as far as working the dispatch side, dealing with drivers, dealing with the out-of-state affiliates. That's where I started going to the limo shows, both on the West Coast and then the one in October on the East Coast. Kind of got to see how other operators operated, and from there, that's when I started asking those questions that I had formulated in my head. Why do you do this? How come this happens? And then 2022, I branched off and started my own company. And I was able to put all those questions into my own practice, sink or swim type deal. And, fortunately I landed on my feet. Right now we're running a fleet of four buses, range in size from 22 passengers up to 57, a couple Sprinter vans and some SUVs. And our niche is we don't do a whole lot out of state, out of market. Everything is pretty much corporate, in state.
So I remember you telling me, and actually multiple people told me this in Phoenix, like everyone knew you, right? And you were everyone's kind of go-to guy for when they needed a bus, right? And so, but you didn't have any of your own clients at that point, really, right? It was mainly all affiliate work. And most clients I have that start online marketing that have only done affiliate work before, those clients many times are the ones that kind of struggle more than the others. You are like the exact opposite. you excelled. And so what I want to do, because I feel like the best really the best way to kind of teach these principles is through actual stories, right? That's why I've probably told your soccer coach story a dozen times. So let's hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So because that's a great one, and it really illustrates why one of the reasons calling can be so valuable.
Gotcha. So the common theme in all of my, I don't want to call them stories, but in all of my experiences, the common theme is going to be human element and personal interaction. Like you said, Mark, the automation trap, and you land, like you said earlier, you land as just a number on a page. And the common theme of all of my experiences that I'm willing to share any of them is the human interaction part and selling your brand and yourself as value to that person. So that trip that you're referring to was a soccer team. The family and I were actually up at Snowball Ski Resort here in Arizona, and took this call. And the guy says, "Hey, I got a soccer team. It was like a month and a half out or something like that. We're looking to go to El Paso, Texas, about an 8-hour drive. But all these quotes I'm getting are, what would be your ballpark price?" And I said, I don't know, somewhere in the $4,000 to $5,000 range is what's coming to my head. And he goes, "Really? Everybody else is $7,000, $8,000. Well, what the difference was is, going over there 8 hours, coming back 8 hours, you have to have hotel rooms, right? Well,
yeah.
Do you? Or do you fly in another driver for $120 into El Paso and save, 15 hotel rooms? And that's where the difference was coming from. And that was my solution. And we had a brief 5 to 7 minute initial call. And I told him, when we get back to the hotel tonight, I'll send over a breakdown of kind of what I'm thinking to get this done. Send him over that email. He responded within 15 minutes and says, "We'll book with you." And that was all, literally, he knew nothing about me. He knew nothing about my company other than, we were skiing with the kids, and I can't remember where they were from, but, he was talking about they ski too. We just had that. Like, 3 minutes connection was personal communication. It wasn't even about what he wanted or what he was calling about. And I mean, he booked, and the icing on the cake to that was in 2025. He called, and we just did his same exact trip again last month. So he's done it with us twice. And last month, with operating costs and fuel costs and everything on the rise that everybody knows about, we were able to bump his rate, 17%. I think is what it came out to be, and he booked again. And sent an email back that, we do this annually. So I would anticipate 27 would be the same. Nice.
Yeah. And that was just, was that a call? Because you get two types of leads, the forms and the phone calls. But whether it's a call, obviously, if it's a call, you answer the call. But even the forms, you'll call them as well. And when you started with, you were just doing buses. You were getting mainly bus leads, and I would argue for those, they almost always require a call, right? Because there's logistics involved, right? Many times, and so. How was it? So that's I really love those points. Essentially, Jacob got creative, and I don't know how you train someone who's like in a call center, let's say, in wherever it might be. It doesn't really matter if they're not in your market, right? Even if it's someone in the US, in another state, they're not going to know the market like you will. And in that situation specifically, I wonder how many even CSRs would have the thought to do that. They're kind of, I believe for the most part, just, there's pricing, and, you figure out what the number of hours or whatever, miles, whatever the formula is. But, you got creative on that one. You got that big event for the, I believe it was the Charlie Kirk Memorial, right? And I say you got the event. You worked with, I believe it was like a big news organization or something. And didn't you say that came in? Was that the one that started as an airport transfer?
That was a form lead the night before. Obviously, everything was rush with that Charlie Kirk Memorial, and everything happened and it got planned, and we were lucky to be in this market. But that started with a form lead airport arrival less than 24 hours before. I think I got it somewhere around 4 p.m. local time, and the event was 9 a.m. the next day. With a simple form lead.
But what was she? Yeah, I guess. So it was for an initial airport transfer, and then once you got on the phone, she's like, "Oh, by the way, is that pretty much how it went?"
Yeah. So she was looking at what the cost was for an airport transfer. The part that obviously the forms don't allow you to enter is how many airport transfers that you need. And it was it was a national media outlet, well known, and that turned into just about 17,000, I think it was, that one request for an airport transfer, because they weren't just first off, there wasn't just one, and second, they weren't just airport transfers. They were 10 to 12 hour days each, going to the event, staying, and then going back to their hotel, and then back to the airport the next day. So
that's interesting.
One, it doesn't allow people to put in everything that they need, and
yes.
Two, people don't know what they need or what you offer. So,
yeah,
if you don't screen your leads, you miss out.
Yeah, and so this is like such a perfect example of something that I'm guessing most people, like even myself, if I looked at it, I'm like, oh, is that worth a phone call? Obviously if they have an email, that's a business email, but a lot of times they don't do that, right? They might use a personal email or whatever, just so you don't know, who the client is or whatever, right?
Correct. And to your point about the call centers, Mark, and I think that any operator that's using a call center, kind of like your automation theory, there's a time and a place for that, right? Do you use a call center for 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. to screen your calls or whatever you want to do? Absolutely, there's a time and a place for that. But I think you're leaving thousands of dollars on the table by not having someone that knows your market and knows your operating costs responding to these, because there's way to make money without throwing out a value. There's a way to make money on value rather than just throwing out a price. And
for sure,
knowing your cost in your market allows you to make those on the fly changes or come up with those creative ideas or what have you. Nobody can screen your leads like you can. Talking about screening leads, we all know our market and our areas. If I get a lead for someone that wants a vehicle at 9 p.m. in Old Town Scottsdale, in our market, I'm not even entertaining that. That's a lead that I don't want to entertain. That's party, that's alcohol, that's damage. It's not something that I even want to entertain. So we focus our time, effort, and resources on what fits our business model.
Yeah, and you can tell just by so with the form leads, makes it a heck of a lot easier, or at least you get some sort of sense, right, of what they're looking for, and that along with, I'm sure there's plenty of other things similar to that where you're like, okay, this one probably it isn't something I want any part of, and we actually did a call it was about a month and a half ago with a client who was getting, oh man, like 10 leads a day, right? She was swamped, right? And it was just overwhelming. And it must sound like you're on the phone all day long, right? With these leads, right? It's got to just take up all your time. Kind of being joking because it doesn't, right?
On the face, that's what you'd see. And that call, that was a real call. I liked that one with that operator. I can't remember where she was out of, but
Chicago,
that was like real life. She was talking about the family and kids and juggling everything. And
she had a 3-year-old. Yep.
Yeah. And you know, some people are going to say I'm crazy because we pay for every lead that comes in, but you're not looking to capitalize on every lead. You're looking to over capitalize on the ones that are your clients. And, you know, my advice to her were, and when I say your clients, it depends what your market is. You know, mine are not the Uber type rides to the airport. Somebody's may be, but you have to capitalize on what is your type client. And, you know, my advice to her was, look at your leads. If I would assume out of those 8 to 10 that you get, 30 to 40% aren't going anywhere anyways. Don't waste your time.
Or more even. Yeah. Like,
you know, you
never know.
So if you're getting 10, 4 out of the 10 kick to the curb, the other 6, you know, and this is where people think I'm spending all day on the phone. It's literally a 45 to a minute and a half call initially. Hey, just this question, this, and this. You get a lot of info in a 90-second screening of your potential clients. So if she's doing that 6 times a day, she's spending 10 minutes on the phone.
Yep.
And then, you know, out of those 6 that she calls, maybe only 2 or 3 are potentially worth her time in putting out a detailed response or quote. And she just cut her workload in half and can still, because if you spread yourself too thin, you're not going to get the results.
No, 100%. Yeah. So sorry, I got a producer in my ear. So, and I was about to those 90-second calls. What are you doing? Because I've heard you say before, it isn't like the exact price doesn't even matter, right? They need an airport transfer or whatever. You're not going to go in and try to calculate down to the penny, you know, how much you're quoting them. Like, what are you really trying to feel out for?
So 9 times out of 10, it's going to be, you know, a quick call. Hey, are you looking to do a round trip? You know, as in your example, you know, it'd be, hey, I got your quote request. Is this simple one way? You looking for round trip? That way I can do the quote unquote round trip special or discount for round trip rate. That's kind of going to open them up to, are they looking for more? Are they looking for simple, you know, standard sedan SUV, one way, done, you know, don't live here, whatever. And then that would conclude the call, you know, like that national, you know, outlet that we got in there for the Charlie Kirk thing that led into more. Obviously that call's a little bit longer.
Did they volunteer? Sorry to interrupt, but on that call, and you might not remember, I know this a long time ago, but don't they usually be like, oh man, I'm glad you called because this is more than you know, I could, you know, it's not like you're having to like torture the information out of them, right?
No, 1000%. That, you know, that call was, hey, this is, you know, I want to make sure your date's correct. You know, like you kind of, you play stupid a little bit. You feed into it.
You already have the information, right? You already know. You're just confirming, right?
I want to, you know, I play stupid. I want to confirm that this is for tomorrow. You're looking for a car tomorrow. You didn't put the wrong date or whatever. Absolutely. And then, and it went, actually, you know, your system wouldn't allow me to get what I actually need, so this is what I really need. And they just start voluntarily giving the information. I mean, I really don't have to poke and prod to find out what they're doing. Yeah.
And I think that's, and I could be wrong, but I bet you that's why a lot of people are hesitant to call. Well, what do I say? I already have their information. Like, why not just, you know, or I'll hear, you know, a very common, probably the most common response I hear is they don't want me to call anyways. They request it, you know, they send a form in, they don't, you know, they don't want to call. They're, you know, I'm going to annoy them or something. What do you say to that? which by the way, you probably already know how I feel about that, but I'm curious how you would respond if someone said that to you, like, we don't want to bother them. They would have called us if they wanted a call.
So my response is those that seem bothered are not my client. The minute I get on the phone, you get, again, it's not just words, it's a sense of
Yes.
what they're saying, right? They're just looking around, they're just shopping around. They were sitting around with some friends last night and thought, oh, this will be fun, and they don't really know. Other than that, you get these corporate, executive meeting planners and things like that are 100% interested, want to know what you have to offer, want to know what sets you apart. They're excited for the call. They anticipate it, because my one automation says, if we have questions, we'll call you shortly.
Yeah.
And if even the one-offs that are just random people, they still appreciate the call, saying, hey, this is what we're looking for. So if you're annoying somebody, they're not your client anyways.
I love that because totally agree. And so I love it. Play dumb, because if you've got their information, right? And so what do you say? Well, I'm just calling to confirm a few things, just calling to make sure we get this right. And they will be the ones that start talking, right? If it's, because it's almost always the case that there wasn't enough information, or there weren't enough fields on the form to where they can jot down every single detail about the event. And the truth is, you actually don't want a million fields on your form. For one, people don't, fill those out with the at the rate they do, smaller forms with less fields. But two, it gives you a reason to figure out who this person is, because I like what you said earlier about, when we were talking to, I forget her name now, but she, in Chicago, she had a 3-year-old, and so she's a mom, and she's, getting all these 10 leads a day. And I like what you said about, look, you're not trying to book all these jobs. Like, most of them, if we just look at your, at your CRM, which I'm not saying to do that, but if we just looked at it, you would see the bulk of the revenue, has come from probably your top 10 or even top 5 might make up a very large portion. If you figure in like a really big client, I know, you got a really good sized client. Maybe not on that initial job. I'm talking about the vehicle, I think, manufacturer. Just that one client is like worth as much as your bottom 90 or bottom 80.
Probably more. That the one you're referring to is the EV client, the EV manufacturer. Again, form lead, simple one-way transfer, and knowing your cost, and it came in over the summer months, which are the slower months for us, so we're a little bit lower than we normally would be. However, that turned into, that one single one-way transfer turned into over 6 figures over an 8-month period. So they're taking a little break. Actually, they're just now coming back. We're picking up with them again this week. So we'll see what that turns into. But again, nice. It started the call today, or the call yesterday was, we need you for 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week. So that's how it started last time, and we went 8 months.
Wow.
So
because I get a lot of especially with bus operators, they're like, hey man, I want employee shuttle work, I want contract type work, and it just yeah, any sort of thing like that where we might be talking like a contract worth, I don't know, mid 5-6 figures, they're not usually going out and looking for vendors, because many times they've got someone who knows someone, or they use their network, right? And usually those big of deals, they don't actually have to even go online to search, because there's so much revenue there that that it's gotten on the like, it's usually, you get it from, you land one job that leads to something else, that leads to something else, and it sounds like that's what happened with this one.
Well, and Mark, you'd be surprised too. A lot of these larger companies, the EV manufacturer, the the local or the national media outlet, as odd as it sounds, they don't. A lot of times, they don't prefer working with the bigger providers. They want to have that ability to, on the fly, make changes. And they're not getting a call center. They're coming straight to me when they call. That's where that's where we've had our success, is that personal communication, no matter how big that company is, that's looking for it. So in a sense, I guess what I'm saying is, yeah, they don't have to reach out. They don't have to do this. They don't have to, fill out lead forms, but a lot of times they do. And they're always looking for, it doesn't matter how big they are. Cost is a budget conscious is their theory too. If they can save money for their company, and if you can be that solution, they do still reach out on these forms, no matter how big they are.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I had this belief that these big corporate guys weren't very price conscious, and that belief was completely like demolished back in February when I had that experience. And I'm like, wait, this guy's asking for like a promotional rate on a round trip, and I would have generally just assumed that, okay, this is not the type, but no, he was like the ideal type of client. And so we're talking about for-profit businesses here, right? We're not talking about the government.
Correct.
And so they actually do care. There was another job recently to where, and I think what you're really good at is coming up with, and actually, before I get into that, let's like kind of double click into what you were just going over with preferring to work with smaller operators. In that, it's kind of like we've all had the experience of, who likes to call the bank? Who likes to call Verizon or AT&T or really any big company? And I get it, like many times once you've spent enough with them, a lot of these guys will give you a point of contact, but there's something to be said for having, someone that they can just text you, right? Or they can call you and they know that you know exactly what's going on. And it's not like they're working with several people. You are their single point of contact. They trust you, right? And there's something to be said for that. And I think it's funny because I see a lot of really big companies try to act small, and then vice versa, where the smaller operators, and I'm talking under like, let's say 5 million a year or something, or even smaller than that, your strength is in your ability to offer that sort of service that you offer, right? Where they can get you on the phone.
Bingo, Mark. And what I think all of this leads into is, from the majority of what I've seen, your clients are small to medium operators.
Yes.
One car at a Sprinter, maybe 10 SUVs, or maybe 2 or 3 buses. I'm in that same category. And
Yep.
and oftentimes what I see is, this industry is very monkey see, monkey do, right? The minute a 20, 30, 40, 50, $100 million operator does something, this industry promotes it and follows it. And
Yep.
that's where we have to know what our capabilities, and 2, what we want to be and what we want to do. And it's everything. It's the automation trap. It's the booking tools. Everybody doesn't need to be on GNet and have everything go together. We don't have to all use the same GPS. We don't. But this industry is very one sees so the other does. And the minute the top guy says this is what needs to be done or this is what we do, everybody does that. Well, we're not Cinderella, right? The glass slipper doesn't fit us all. And there's no shame in saying I own one car or I own two cars or whatever your case is, but this is what I can offer you. And a lot of times you can land a lot bigger contracts than what you think you're supposed to and still be able to manage and have your hand in it. But when we try to do things that we're not capable of or because he's doing it, this is what I should do, that's where some of these operators fall into that trap. And I don't want to say start losing hope or why isn't it working for me? I don't know what the phrase is there on that, but why don't ever compare yourself to what somebody else is doing.
No, that's so it's totally agree there. Like a perfect example of this is IVRs. So like phone trees, right? And all have and I used to get this a lot, and I always would tell them, okay, if it's a current client, even then, sure, maybe have a phone tree, but for when you're running ads, when you're doing any sort of marketing and you're trying to attract new people, like you're one car, if you're a small operator, your strength is that someone can call and you pick up the phone and, rather than, oh, for this, press this, oh, for this, press this, like that can be annoying, especially, I know I find it annoying, when you just can't get someone on the phone. And I've heard people say, well, I don't want them to know, maybe I just have one vehicle. I get this pretty much, I would say most inquiries I get when we ask, and we even specify, how many vehicles do you own on the form? And it's still usually not the real answer, because I feel like they're afraid if they disclose, because it's not about that. It's about, being forthright, because most operators aren't, and they will, tell a prospective client that, oh yeah, we've got all this, and it's okay if you don't. And actually your strength is just being straight up with people and saying, hey, look, this is what I've got. And the truth is, even if you work with me or someone else, if it's a big enough an event, many times they're going to be bringing in but you're trusting me, right? I am responsible. I'm your point of contact, and I'm the one who is going to coordinate these things.
1,000%. And it blows my mind times where it's a catch-22, right? So it blows my mind the times that I've personally, because I still drive, I get out there, I like to do that, 2-3 times a week just to see what's going on. I still get out and drive, and I'm out there, I answer the phones. There's nothing in this business that I won't do. Clean vehicles, fuel vehicles, whatever. But it blows my mind how many times I'll be doing an affiliate trip, and instead of them telling the person, we're affiliated with so-and-so in the Phoenix market, it's we're such and such worldwide, and these are our vehicles. Well, these people catch on. And when they start talking about, well, I'll just call so-and-so in the office, and, we don't know what you're talking about. Like, well, I talked to so-and-so and you're supposed to do this. Then you're going to have to call who you booked with, because we have no idea. And then they figure out, wait, what do you mean? Like, I was, booked by Charter Up, or, Charter Up, who is this? And then they start to figure it out. So if the more upfront you are with them, and you hit it too, it doesn't matter how big of a company you are. There's a couple local companies out here that can handle, 200, 300, 400 person groups on their own. It gets any bigger than that, they're using all of us, and we're all out there doing it. So everybody is subbing things out, and the corporate clients expect that. It's how do you manage it? is what they care about.
Totally. And I think it's like refreshing when someone is straight up about that, because if someone goes and calls and gets quotes from a few different companies, most of the time you're going to hear, because I've listened to so many of these calls, oh yeah, no, we've got that and that and that. And, everyone on their website will have, many times will have a list of every vehicle under the sun, and you don't really know who owns what. And especially if you're a savvy buyer, which, look, these EAs, executive assistants, the people that book these things, DMCs, they know how this goes, right? And so many times you're not going to be fooling them. And if you're if you're just
what's it worth to you, right? To say I'm AZ Luxury worldwide. What's it worth to me to do a one-off trip in, we're all in these groups, right? Who do we have in Barcelona, Spain? Who do we have in Madrid? Who do we have here? I'm going to put my name on something to sub it out to something I have no control, even locally within the United States. There comes a point where you just tell them, listen, why don't you call so-and-so? They probably have a better offer for you. That's not something I can do. At what cost is it worth me booking that trip and subbing it out when I really don't know what I'm getting on the other end, right? Maybe I'm getting a word of mouth referral, but do I really? Maybe they're subbing it out to somebody who knows who
that's the worst.
Or who knows who really has what their limousines look like? Are their standards your standards? Now, while corporate stuff can be good to farm out, and there is a place for the affiliate market, and there's a lot of money to be made. Some of these big companies make 20, 30, 40% on smaller affiliates. Do you have the capabilities to do that? And is it worth putting your name on something, or are you shooting yourself in the foot for a couple $100?
No.
And it's something that you have to figure out.
Yeah, for sure. Because, I guess it just depends on the situation, but I couldn't imagine, if you're farming out to someone, let's say in another city, and if it's a client who trusts you and you've never used that person before, that's a major risk, right? And it's kind of like,
for how much?
Exactly.
What's your profit margin on something you're subbing out already? If you're at 30% and then you have to give back, you just lost a client plus you gave money back. Is it worth it?
Is it worth it? Totally.
All in the name of I'm a worldwide vendor.
Yeah.
It's not my operating style.
Yeah. So another thing that I've noticed is not only the kind of misrepresenting the size of their business or fleet or whatever. It's when you were talking about jobs that are beneath, like driving, for instance, right? Or actually for me, like driving, especially when you're at an event and it's, let's say, one of these big clients, right? You probably want to be at that big event, right? That you're the one coordinating. I mean, I'm sure you probably go to all of those where, that one for the memorial or whatever. I'm sure you were present there and overseeing things. But just being on the phone, I feel like the reason why all these call centers are used during business hours, while the operator is choosing to drive, and they're like, no, I'll use a call center for the phone calls. It's like they're outsourcing the most valuable thing in their business, right? For something that, and I'm not saying that you can't add value driving a really big client, because you have that maybe potentially one-on-one time with them and get to know them a little better. But spending $5,000, $10,000 a month on marketing, and then you are sending your calls to a $10 an hour or $5 an hour employee that has no incentive, they don't know your market, and can't figure out why you can't land more corporate clients. And Jacob right now is telling you this is how you land them, essentially, is by coming up with, well, one, just, calling, and then actually trying to figure out what it is they need, because they might even have an idea about what they think they need, right? But of course, this is what you do. And I think many times operators will not realize that they take for granted their specific knowledge of their market, of for instance, you're telling me a story about, it was like a 113 person event, and where, two buses could have done it, but you threw in an extra. Do you remember that one? I think that one was recent.
Yeah, that was a recent one we just did. Within the last, I think it was like the last 3 weeks. Actually, and that's another one. I was with the family in Six Flags, waiting in line at a roller coaster when she called. And that was a
You
quick
should never
call.
be in the office, by the way. Just
No
like,
joke.
yeah.
So we were just out and about, called, had a 2-3 minute conversation with her, told her, hey, this is what we can do. It came out to where, I don't remember the reason, that she wanted 2 full-size buses for their dinner group. It was 113 people. They wanted 2 full-size buses, and that was the only piece of the equation out of everything that they were doing that I couldn't do, because the other large one was out, and it was out on a 3-day deal or something.
Yeah.
So instead of 2, and it was strictly a seat count for them. I'm not at all advising, give your client an apple when they order an orange. I'm not at all advising that, but it was strictly a seat count for them to get, 113, 110 people from hotel to dinner, wait, come back. That was all it was. And instead of the 2 full size that she was looking for, I gave her a full size and a 25 and a 35. So I sent her 3 vehicles instead of 2. Didn't charge her for that additional one, because I know my cost, and what I was charging on the first 2 larger vehicles way superseded sending that smaller one, because I was only sending 1 additional. And in turn, that was what she left a review on my Google reviews of how great it was. It worked out better because the vehicles were able to shuttle quicker turnaround times, because there were 3. So, people were ready to go home at all different times, and nobody was waiting. We got a group of 10, no problem. Let's send 10 in the smaller bus. We had a group of 40 come out. Let's send the 40 in the larger bus. By that time, the smaller one was back. I had 57 seats to take the rest. It worked out better, and that's a simple strategy that I was able to offer her, a simple value that I was able to offer her to make myself stand out. Yeah.
And so what I'm getting there is because she was even, she was like a planner, right? And so she had done this before.
Executive assistant and never really put anything together like this. So she worked for the company. It wasn't a DMC type thing.
Okay. So end client, those are always the best though, right?
Yeah. So margins are better. She had never done this, and that's what I'm saying. The margins that are there, the only difference I had was a little bit more fuel and payroll. Those were made up in other places, doing other trips. Yeah. They even had a couple cancel that I didn't do the trip for, but they had already, in our contract, it was too late to cancel. So those were free rides. Overall, it cost me nothing to send an additional vehicle.
Yeah. And it made their experience that much better. And I remember you were, and I don't remember, you might not remember this one either. You're talking about a wedding, and about how you were kind of informing, and this might have even been a planner, I'm not really sure, but you were talking about how, look, typically some people want to go back earlier, everyone goes out after the wedding or whatever, and then some people want to come back right away, some people want to, close the bar out or whatever, and kind of the value add is when you're making suggestions that they had not even thought of, right? And when, the minute you are doing things like that, that's when it's like, Okay, and they got 2 other quotes for, oh, here's what you said you wanted, here's a quote on what you wanted. And not like finding out really, wait, why do you want that in the first place? You know, it's
that was
like
the same scenario. And you know, my suggestion was, you know, well, let's take this bus and go stop here and then drop these people off at the after party and go home, whatever. I don't remember the total scenario, but hey, listen, you know, if I send you a third bus to take the, you know, the party guys to there, nobody wants to sit on a bus and make a bunch of stops after a wedding. Oh, you know, and their response is, oh, that's great. It cost me absolutely nothing to send that additional vehicle. And those are things that, you know, you to close this off and make it full circle, Mark, is you talked about how do you train somebody to do that? Well, you're never going to train anybody at a call center. You may not even train 90% of your staff. But if there's one person that you can sit down with and explain these things to, that would make your life 100 times easier, that know what their operating costs are. And what does it matter if we're looking to make, and I'm just going to throw a number out, if we're looking to make $1,000 profit on this group, what does it matter if I make $0 on this one and $1,000 on this end? It makes no difference as long as the profit margin's the same at the end.
Yeah, and that's where you're gonna have advantages over, like, who's the big player that owns no buses who gets tons of work, right? Everyone knows, Charter Up, right? And they likely and I don't actually know this for a fact, but making calls like the one you just mentioned, like knowing your costs and things like that, those are things that I believe that, you know, most can't do. And even I'm sure most reps, they have a certain, like, you know, probably built-in margin they have to do. They probably have some wiggle room. Okay. But you know, getting creative is really where you can add value. And I was on the phone yesterday. I think I mentioned this to you when we spoke, with massive operator, you know, East Coast operator, and they were just asking, hey, how do we, like, you know, how do we improve the results we're getting? And, you know, it was one of those things where, yeah, there were definitely some things, you know, just basic stuff that they could have been doing better regarding, like, you know, keeping the CRM updated. But, you know, what I like wanted to make clear was, like, look, most, you know, let's say if you're getting, you know, this company was getting just one of their companies was getting 900 leads a month, right? That's a lot. And there's a percentage of those, it might be 10%, that could be, like, you know, something that could be a good size, you know, mid-5, low 6-figure,
even more. That size operator could be getting more.
Yeah. And so, you know, it's like, so how do you, like, operationalize something like that? And by the way, I'm not, you know, I know I haven't asked you, put together like a sales team and operationalize this for this huge company, but maybe it's like, maybe they have 1 or 2 people that can make these calls, that can pull in resources, that can play around, and, you know, because they know their costs, and they're good at doing what you do, which is really not going based on what the person is telling them they need. I'm sure you come across occasions where someone does this all the time, and in that case, okay, maybe they know, but maybe they don't know your market, right? And so, you know, the venues, and, you know, you have this specific knowledge that can't be had unless you've actually been to that venue itself, and you know what the parking situation is, or you know what it's like at a really big event, right? So
yeah, if your question is how would I internalize that, or where would I begin? Let's just use the number of 900. I mean, let's be honest, 30% or 1/3 are probably not worth your time.
At least, yeah.
So with that number, that leaves you roughly 20 leads a day that we need to follow up on.
Yeah.
And I think you go from there, you follow up on them. That size operator should have connections in pretty much all 50 states, would be my guess. Then as you're looking at these, maybe you reach out to your affiliate friends and say, hey, what's kind of the market on this? And then you start to learn that, and then what it is. You might have to call them once or twice, and then and these leads are probably going to be situation or event based also. So you could get 10 or 12 of them in that 30-day period for the same event, depending on what you're marketing for. And then go from there and be able to sell that, and then look at them strategically as where do we see any of these long term and what are short term. And you would have to have somebody internalize the long term ones and then make a move there, because those are going to be like, in my case, the EV company and things like that. Those are going to be your top 5% that supersede your bottom 80%. And those are the ones you're looking to capitalize on.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just get overwhelmed.
No, for sure. And so, yeah, when I was thinking about it, I'm like, okay, so 30 leads a day on average. That means on some days they might get 50. But most of these calls you're talking about, I mean, it'd probably work best to have like a two person where the person who's doing the initial call, they need to know what are they essentially, you're just calling to confirm the details. And like you said, many times they will just start talking, right? Mm-hmm. And once they realize, okay, this is someone who really needs our transportation specialist on X this person specializes just on corporate events with more than 100 people. Let me get you transferred to them. And then that's the person like yourself, for instance, that is handling that and is the problem solver. Because I think, what's happening is, they get an automated quote. They either book or they don't. They get a few follow-up automated text messages, and out of those 900 leads a month, I bet you if they did this, they would find that there's maybe, even if it's 3 or 5%, right, that lead to conversations with someone who spends 6 figures a year on transportation. It's totally possible when you're talking that kind of volume, because over a whole year, we're talking 10,000 like leads, right? And so even if it's 1%, right, that's still 100, potentially 5 to 6 figure clients, right?
And anybody can make that initial call, right? Because we're not discussing numbers, on that initial call.
No, exactly.
Anybody can make that initial call and screen it out, and then bring to a set individual or maybe 2 individuals. This is what they're looking to do. Follow up on this. Just don't confuse yourself. Don't get overwhelmed, and focus on the real, not everything around it.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that that a one-time airport transfer round trip or something is worthless. Yeah, sure. Still book those or whatever. Like I have a Houston client who does a ton of Galveston stuff, right? And that's like his bread and butter, but it's also the most competitive priced, right? Lowest margin work. But it does volume, and I get it. He has a monthly nut he has to cover, right? He's got the insurance, he's got the vehicle, he's got the staff. He has to cover that. And so I understand why, that's a big thing to him. But when we're talking about like, hey, what actually is driving like, the bottom line, like the EBITDA, the net profit, it's these working with the end client. Because you're able to charge. Well, think about, what does Charter Up typically going to be making on a $5,000 bus job. They might be making $1,500, might be $2,000, who knows?
Sometimes they make more than the end operator. You don't have fuel costs.
For sure.
That accidental flat tire, you don't have, it's kind of sad. And there's maybe some people will have some pushback on this, but with the cost today between the new, let's just take an SUV, 75 plus, 70 plus, maybe for a brand new one, between fuel, maintenance, any permits you need. I would say that you would be hard pressed as a single car operator to make it alone on airport transfers.
No,
I think that would be extremely difficult to do. And I think you would have zero residual value in your vehicle after 2 years if you did, because you're running it into the ground. So with that being my philosophy, at least, or my opinion, it doesn't make sense to not market yourself to do something else and manage, and focus all your time on those simple airport transfers or point-to-point transfers.
It's funny you say that, because literally that's a conversation in the last 3 days I've had with 2 different operators who just do black car, and the average ticket is like $370, and still their cost per lead and to acquire a client might cost them $100. But even if it's like $80, and we're talking, okay, a $370 transfer or something, if it's just a one-off thing, it just costs, you just have too many other costs, right? And it's just not profitable. And that's generally why, larger vehicles, are going to make a lot more sense in the long run. Got a question here. How does Jacob feel about your pricing displaying on your website, or is it better to not show the price on the website? Curious what you think about that.
So I've never been a big fan of showing your pricing on the website for 2 reasons. One, that could knock you out because you're higher than somebody else. And those people that are shopping just for price are never going to give you a look. And the other reason is you don't want to sell yourself short as well. You want to attract them in, get kind of the feel of what they need. And there's been times where I've talked to them about pricing, and they'll flat out tell me the quotes or send me quotes that they received from some of my competitors. Now I have that pricing in my back pocket, and I'm able to quote them $5-10 less, or sell them on something else. Price is not all that makes. Those people that are looking for price are your Uber clients. They're never going to book with you. They're looking for a $70 airport transfer when your minimum's $125. They're never going to book with you. I don't think there should be time wasted on that. Some operators get away with that. I just think it gets hard to manage. There's a lot of upkeep on your website that you have to keep changing. And 2, it could come back and hurt you. Like, I'll use our market, for example. We have the Waste Management Golf Tournament. I don't know all the parameters, and I'm sure there's ways to change it or block it, but things happen, things slip through the crack. Next thing you know, next week somebody books an airport transfer for $125 on a waste management day, where you could charter that thing out for $220 an hour at 10 hours, and you're stuck. Now what do? Cancel on them?
No.
So I've never been a big fan of that.
And going back to what you said earlier is, the assumption is that they even know what. Now, don't get me wrong. If it's a simple like airport transfer, and that's really all it is, and let's say it's someone who's going to Disney World on vacation for once in their once every 10 years, and they're flying into Orlando or something. That's one thing. But as we just covered, like many times they think they might know what they need, but they don't really there might be a better solution, and many times there are better solutions, right? They just don't know what you know, and that's the whole point. That's where you add value. If you, by displaying your price, and it's funny because we do have given clients this ability to do the pricing that is instant. The problem with that is it like implicitly like kind of says that this is a commodity, right? That's kind of what it communicates in a way, is like, where do you go and get gas? Well, the cheap, if it's, the same, sort of fuel rating, whatever, premium, generally you're going to go to wherever you're going to get the best deal, because everyone looks at it like it's the same thing, right?
I like your gas analogy, Mark, there. And I told you by nature I'm an inquisitive person, and I think things in my head, and maybe that gas analogy is pretty apropos when I say, where are you going to go for the cheapest gas? Well, I think of it differently, right? I'll pay 2 cents more if I'm on the right side of the street and I don't have to cross traffic when I leave. That's the same.
Totally. Yeah.
Same scenario where, with these people, a lot of the time, like I said, your Uber clients, they're looking for a price and that's it. The other people are willing to pay a couple dollars more if they don't have to park, if they don't have to wait, to call an Uber. You pull right up to the door and pick them up. You drop them off right there at baggage, and if they're elderly, what does it cost me 10 minutes of my time to park on level 4 here in Phoenix and take them in and help them with their bags or whatever? I mean, it doesn't cost me anything different. So to use your gas analogy, right? I may pay 2 to 3 cents more for easier in and out.
That's such a better, like, I should add, now I am going to add to that analogy. Oh, the cheapest gas, right? But, and we've all had this experience, but there's a line, 2 or 3 cars deep at Arco, right? And, and they're 5 cents a gallon cheaper. What's your time worth, right? Right. So it's not necessarily, oh, you're going to go wherever the gas is cheapest. It's like, well, no,
and if you think about it, 10 cents a gallon, most of us have 20-gallon tanks on average. Yeah. What's the difference? $2?
$2. Yeah. What's your time worth, right?
What's the value that adds to you? And that's where I've had my success, is that personal communication and the value.
Yeah. And that is, I think, what we're going to find. The more automated things get, the easier they get, that software gets to build. Everyone's just going to push to more and more automation. Oh, there's AI voice agents now. Oh, do you mean I never have to talk to a human again? Sign me up. It's like, okay, here's the thing. Like, if it's kind of like, hey, I'm going to open a corner store and compete with Walmart, right? No, you're not. Or I'm going to open a logistics business and compete with Amazon. No, you're not. It's like, you kind of have to know where can I provide value that the big guys can't? And do I provide value in economies of scale in like massive volume? And that's how I make a very little amount of money, but I do, 20,000 rides a year or something. For most people watching this, that's not the case, right? It's going to be, right. It's going to be these one-on-one interactions where you're, talking to another person and really figuring out what it is that they need. And
the other part of that too is there's been, we have those self-driving cars out here, Waymo, and recently they've added, I don't know if they're being used yet, I'm not really up on all of that, but they've added, I don't know if they're being tested, maybe 8 to 10 passenger, like little shuttle looking things.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there's been some talk out here about, oh, we're going to get, self-driving buses, and we'll never do that. My opinion on this is that will never happen. There's too many corporate clients that want too many different things that these Waymos will never, or self-driving will never be able to figure out. I don't think the human interaction or human element is ever going away. And for those that want to focus on that side of it, be my guest, because I will continue to pick up the crumbs on the backside talking to people. I don't think that's ever gonna change.
No, for sure. It's honestly, it's a lot like Uber and Lyft coming in, and people think, oh man, that was a huge threat. It's like, yeah, so if the value you provide is your vehicle and getting someone from point A to point B, then yeah, you should be worried, right? Because you're gonna be cooked, right? Yep. But that should have really never, it's always going to be, there's always going to be value in that, or for the foreseeable future, in that human interaction. And even when, who knows, AI can do all of it. Do you think doctors will go away? No, of course not, because who's going to tell, you don't want, Claude telling you about your diagnosis, right? It's just, anyways, we got a question from John here. Do you call every lead that comes in regardless of what they request online?
So I get 7 to 8 leads a day. And I think that I call probably 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah.
The ones that I don't call are either, sometimes I'll get a lead in for November of 2027 or April of 2027, and I simply send a response back saying, we don't quote that far out. We don't know what vehicles we might have. We don't know what pricing is going to be like. we just don't quote that far out. The only other, we'll get some that, like I said, it's a party type atmosphere, 9:00 at night. Unfortunately, we don't have any availability, and I send back a response. Those I don't waste your time on. The rest of them, 1000% we call back. And again, it's a quick, even if I know the answer, hey, you said you wanted this type of vehicle, are you going to have this, or is it just a one way, or are you looking for a round trip? Whatever, I don't want to say dumb question I can think of at the time, but whatever icebreaker I come up with at the time, just to get them to talk and kind of feel them out, see their mood. Hear, you can hear their level of want to book. I don't know the word I'm looking for.
No. Just the energy they're putting off, right? Are they talking really fast, and want to get you off the phone?
Looking to book are they the ones that are in charge of making a decision? Or do we have to get this back to a committee for review? And then they'll give you all these little tidbits of information, and then that changes how we book it.
Yeah. So pretty much, yes, he calls every lead that has the potential to be a good client. And the thing is, you just don't know with most of them. But maybe it's like you said, 9:00 on a Friday night, you already know what that's going to be, right? But yeah, long story short, I think, and maybe I'd love to hear from some other people, but it's like, what do I say? And Jacob has answered that. You just confirm if you can't think of anything else, confirm their details. Yep. Do you want round trip? That's why there's something to say for actually not having all of the information up front, because
then it gives you something to ask.
It gives you something to ask. And then Sarah asked, let's see here.
I like this question from Sarah.
Yeah. Okay. You see that? How hard do you push, for people just listening, how hard do you push on the call to get them to book?
Mark, you and I have had that conversation. I push 0. That
Yes.
initial call is not a sales call. That initial call is to confirm what they have. I do give them, hey, do you have any questions that you can think of right now? Cool. If not, I'm going to get this quote emailed over to you. Let me know if you have any questions or you want to get it locked in. That initial call, there is, I would say 9 times out of 10, maybe even 9.99%, 99.99%. There's no discussion of price. Every once in a while, somebody will quote, somebody will bait me into a about how much type deal. But for the most part, there is 0 push to get them to book. In fact, unless they call and say, I want to book a trip, I would say 85 to 90% of my trips aren't even booked over the phone. They're all booked over email or quote or text at that point.
But after you made that connection on the phone and spoken to them.
Correct.
That's the key, right?
After you've already made that. So I feel like they get that a lot, right? You walk into a dealership and you get the guy that, oh, well, what's your current payment? What payment do you want to be in? They start talking that, I'm gone right away.
Yeah.
I don't know
who
about
likes to be
else.
pressured. No one does.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't feel good.
And so that's why I like Sarah's question, is because I think people think that they have to get on the phone and sell, and 0% of our call is sales.
So even the term sales, like, oh, why aren't you selling? We get what brings to mind is the Grant Cardones, the guys that are really pushing. But even guys like Grant, who've been doing it 30 or 40 years, they can push in, and this, I'm not saying for even doing sales like this, but he's so good that he can push, but it doesn't feel like he's doing it in a humorous way, and he's just knows how to read the situation, right? And so I wish, the term sales, whatever, inside sales, I used to say, oh, call them inside sales reps. I don't actually like that. I like transportation consultant or transportation concierge, because it's more like you're a doctor, right? It's not like you go to the doctor, you're like, doc, what are you trying to sell me on here? It's like, well, just tell me what ails you,
It's what I refer to as subliminal sales, right? So if you can answer their questions and get them to and buy into what you're saying and how your value suits them best, then you've sold it without even selling anything, right? So somebody has a question about the vehicles or whatever the question is, obviously mine are all brand new, and I tell them, we just upgraded our fleet. Everything's 2025, 2026. Here, you don't have to worry about, in Arizona, you don't have to worry about AC issues. You don't have to worry about this, and then sometimes they'll go into a story and oh yeah, the last bus experience we had, it was hot, and those little things trigger their past experiences. Because I would say majority of the people that reach out to you have booked transportation before. You're not the first.
Which, by the way, that's a great, I'm not sure if you asked that, but that's have you ever used chauffeur transportation services before? If they say no, then you kind of have an idea of what you're dealing with.
Exactly. So subliminal sales, I mean, if you can resonate with a person and they feel like they understand, or you're one of them, you've sold them, and you didn't have to push for anything. I've had a couple that go, and we've had 2 or 3 phone calls or emails back and forth, and then they call and, oh, we're still on the fence. You know what? Then let's go back to, if we really want that job, and if it makes sense, then that's where we change our approach a little bit and say, listen, what were you quoted? Send me a legitimate quote and I'll beat it by $100. And that usually will turn them, because then price is one thing for them. And if it doesn't cost me anything to suit their price, well, then there it is. There's been few, never on the first call, but few, what do I have to do to earn your business? What do I have to do right now?
I like that line.
To flip that around. And that's where I've gotten them to send me other quotes, send me exactly what they're paying, then I can compare. If it makes sense. There's been times where, there's been times where I tell them, that's a hell of a deal you're getting. You better go book with them right now. There's times where I tell them,
I love that.
there's times where I tell them, you know what, I can beat that total quote. If it's a, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 program, I can beat that by $500, whatever the case is. So
yeah. But oftentimes, like that's probably not the norm, or at least I wouldn't think. Yeah. And I think people or some operators might worry, man, these, this sounds tough. Like, it's like, I need to learn all these lines to say, like, what do I have to do to earn your business? These are probably a very small percentage of leads that he's referring to. And look, Jacob's been doing this a long time. Like, but if all, like, because I think that holds a lot of people back too, is like, man, I just don't have any experience like on the phone or anything like that. You're just, don't even think about you're not trying to sell someone. You're just trying to help them out, right? That's all you're trying to do. You're just trying to figure out, is what they're requesting.
Solve their problem. That's all you're doing.
Is what they're requesting what they actually need? Like, could I make a better suggestion? Like, something they haven't thought of? Because if so, then boom, you've added value, and then it's not as much about the price. By the way, I know it's 12:30 now. Whenever you have to go, Jacob, no worries at all.
I'm good for whatever. It looks like we got another question.
Yeah. So Jake asked, where do the best leads come from?
Most of them are form leads.
Yeah.
The best leads are what you make of them.
Exactly.
Like that call, I don't know if they're coming from Google. I don't know if they're coming from Bing, and that's not, that's above my pay grade on that. But the maybe form leads that we get are.
Yeah. So sorry. Maybe I should try to so what Jacob just said is the answer actually. So as far as like from an online marketing point of view, generally your best leads, type of lead. I mean, look, I'm guessing when they call you, I would assume compared to form leads, they're likely going to be a little more serious, or they're just older and they just don't, or there's more logistics. It's a bigger job. But as far as like where they actually come from, the best leads you can get are from in my opinion, are from Google local listing. So, being in that map pack, there's several reasons for that. Number one, they're like, oh, this guy's local. Number two, they can see your reviews. And so I've noticed those ones usually convert at a higher rate. The funny thing is, Jacob, so when he first started with us, and this is why like it broke so many of my beliefs about what you needed to do to have success, because he pretty much, number one, so when Jacob started with us in March of 2025, and still, so he signed on just doing pay-per-click with us, and, just pay-per-click with us. And I noticed, I was like, Jacob, oh man, I don't think you have you have a Google business profile, which I think we got one set up. You might have already, I'm trying to remember, but anyways, I Googled your company name, right? And I know this is still the case, I believe. I Googled AZ Luxury Coach, and I'm like, wait, what the hell? This is an RV dealership, right? And so, and why that was funny to me is for several reasons. But the biggest one was Jacob was doing like killing it, better than any of my other clients. And you couldn't even like find his reviews, right? So people couldn't even check to see. They didn't have to. That's the point. Because once they talk to him, they can just tell, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. Like by the questions you ask, right? That's really what it is. Like the questions you are asking them shows your level of knowledge and And when you're asking, questions that they didn't even think to ask, if you're asking them questions they didn't even think of, that right there is showing value. Let's see.
That's why I laughed. I just saw Tony's question here.
Yeah.
If you're getting to that next.
Yeah. So Tony says, are your form leads coming from your website?
So, I would say, Tony, go look at my website, www.azluxurycoach.com. That's not a sales pitch because there's not much on that website.
Yeah.
So
that's not the page we send his ads to, by the way. Yeah.
No. So my ads, my form leads are coming through whatever Mark has set up, but nothing comes through my website. And actually, all the time I get messages, or I get through, I think it's through GoDaddy is my website actually. I get messages saying, hey, I'm on your website. I can't see the vehicles. I can't look this up. I can't look that up. I've never really invested in the website game. I set it up to have there, but again, it's all communication. Obviously they were able to find me somehow. And, again, it's playing dumb. You're the third person today that's told me my website's having issues. I'm going to have to call them. But, what can I help you with?
Jacob's broken every rule. No automations. He has no online reviews. Can't even find his website.
Well, and just redirect them. But here's the thing, Mark, and I don't want to steal your thunder on the automation.
No. I agree with you.
Why I do that is a lot of times, we talk about owner-operators out driving or out cleaning or out doing something or being out with managing a group, whatever they're doing. And maybe they talk to this person on the phone and give them a quote. Next thing you know, there's an automation going out saying, hey, we haven't heard from you. Would you still like a quote?
Yeah.
And now these people are looking at this going, well, wait a minute. I thought I just talked to this guy.
Yeah.
And I ran into that a couple times because I didn't always follow the procedures in the thing, in a timely manner. And then you had the 2 hour and then the 4 hour and then the 1 day. All these follow-ups were going out, and it wasn't all. So if you are dedicated and you're 100% on top of it and everything is done as it should,
you don't really need
great
those.
System. But if not,
no. If you're doing what you're doing, so sorry to interrupt, but if you're doing what you're doing, you don't need that stuff.
If you're out and about, and then people just get confused, and and then I was getting texts saying, oh, didn't I just talk to you? And that it became a disaster. So that's why I went away from the automation. But the website game, people will sell the websites, and there's I've known some people that spend a lot of money on their website. I just don't feel like they're getting the return on that any more than I am. Would I like to have something that looks a little nicer? Sure. But is that an investment that I'm looking to make right now? No. So those that do go to the website, I usually end up just talking with through like a GoDaddy chat thing saying, hey, sorry, my website's down. What can I help you with? Is this a phone number I can text? I'll send you pictures of the vehicles. Sorry, you couldn't do it. And then, maybe, hey, what's your email address? I'll send you over a quote with a reference number. That way any of our, and keep in mind, I'm the only one that answers the phone the majority of the time. Let me send you a quote with a reference number so any of our representatives can help you out when you call back. Just use that reference number. Then you just put in their mind that now you're dealing with a legit company and you didn't even try to sell anything. So
it's funny because I have another guy that's out of who same thing. He's like, Mark, turn off my automations, please, except for the review one, I believe, because same thing. He does the same thing you do. Well, actually, now I probably have three. I have one in San Diego, one in, I think he's in Palm Beach, Florida, and automations turned off because he was like, because if you're calling someone, the problem with the automations, if you've spoken on the phone to them, then sending some text that doesn't really acknowledge and we're trying to work on this to where we can use that call transcript and actually send automated follow-ups that make more sense, right? Where there's more context, where it doesn't just seem. But the problem with automation is when you can tell it's automated and and it adds no value. And so, yeah. Thanks again, Jacob, AZ Luxury Coach. Thank you so much for doing this, and we'll do it again soon, okay? See you guys. Thanks, everyone, for joining. If you found this valuable, please subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up. I'll see you on the next video.